Good morning or afternoon, I'm not sure when this is, but I'd like to welcome you to Localbias. Right here being Easthampton Media is producing this, and Drew Hutchison, our usual host, is behind the cameras and directing this. And I am being a host for today, and I'm with somebody who I have a huge amount of respect for. I'll say it, he's one of my heroes, Paul Richmond, who has been sort of a leader in this valley for a quarter of a century about free speech, poetry, the arts, protecting civil rights, but actually just giving a voice to common people to stand up, write what they have to say, and stand up before their friends and just say it at poetry slams, spoken word things. Paul is also, he's been to the Fringe Fest. He is the Emeritus United States Beat Poet Laureate. He was the Beat Poet Laureate. He still is in Massachusetts. He's been honored that several times. He's an author of at least a dozen books that I know of. So that's plenty. That's enough about Paul, my friend. And now, I've just sort of ruined it for you. Now you better live up to all of this.
Karl Meyer, you didn't introduce yourself, who you are.
I'm Karl Meyer.
There you go.
I'm Karl Meyer. I've been a subject of Paul's for a long time, and to be honest with you, going to his spoken word events 15, almost 20 years ago now, it gave me a new level of sort of comfort to stand with other people. Just sort of, you're naked on stage. There's no, I used to do radio and stuff, but there's nobody between you. And we're all just people. And we're all just respecting each other and having these things. But so it is my great honor as a person who I know, one of the most democratic people I know, to reintroduce you to Paul Richmond. And now we're going to go at him and just claw through what's going on with you, Paul.
Well, just to take up what you were just taking, Karl, I started out, as you know, I was a juggler for 22 years. And I stopped doing that as a profession, and I was always writing my scripts and stuff, and I had always stories and things. And then I ran into some folks, and I said, okay, I'm going to start doing this writing stuff, my stories, and what I thought was favorite poetry. I always wrote. I mean, I was fortunate enough in the 70s to be at the University of Buffalo, where I got to see Ginsberg and Gary Snyder and Burroughs and all the beats, because the English department there Creeley was one of the professors there, so he brought in all the beats to perform and read at the school. So I got a chance to see them live and read from them. I have some interesting stories about that, but I always saw that the words were important. A funny thing with that whole idea about the beats, I remember when I first saw the book On the Road, everybody really was into that, but I couldn't read it. I kind of read it, and it didn't make any sense to me. And I was just like, okay, I'm not sure what it is. And then bizarrely, I don't know, a year or two later, I was hitchhiking, and it was in the backseat of the car that I got in.
Yeah.
And I read it. It was like it was the time and place or something that made sense. But not to stay too far there in the past. So when I started to really take it seriously, I think what helped me was that, being a juggler, you would get on and I would find out, well, what festival's here, what festival's there to get work.
Yeah.
Writers don't think about that. They're writing.
No,
you're
in your head.
You're just doing. As a juggler, nobody's coming in.
Right.
Knocking on your door to say, come and juggle. You have to call them, and you have to find it. So I started to, with the internet, I was computer savvy pretty early on. I found, there's a festival in Austin, there's a festival, and I would go.
Yeah.
And I want to go to be with people who didn't know me, so when I read my stuff, I could see whether they were, why don't you sit down now, okay? Or whether they liked it or what have. There was no reason for them to give me friends compliments.
I want to jump back a little bit here to something I know about you. It's a little bit of a backstory, but I remember you had trouble reading as a young person.
Yeah, that's right. I was reading at a 4th grade level in 7th grade. And I was part of an experiment that they stopped, but they didn't stop for really. And went around the country. People thought it was a great idea before they realized how bad of an idea it was.
Yeah.
They showed you a word, and they asked you to memorize that word.
Yeah.
And so you saw what. There was no pronunciation, so you didn't know what a W sounded like. You didn't know what was happening. And one of the few times that my father, it got a little heavy with him because he wasn't a man to kind of beat me up or anything. I didn't have to deal with all that. But I said to him, I can't spell this word, and there was a dictionary on the table, and he said, well, look it up. And I was like, the dictionary was useless to me because I couldn't pronounce anything. So where am I going to look? I don't even know what the word is. It seemed, like, why are you asking me that? So he kept saying to me, well, say the word. So I'd say the word, what? And he says, well, what are you getting? I don't know what you're talking about. So he thought I was being a wise ass. And then finally he really realized I had no clue.
Yeah.
And so he went to the school and they were, oh yeah, we were supposed to come out back to pronunciations and then, so that
you were wired differently.
I was wired differently at that point.
You know, for you to be where you are as a published, you know, and just a really accomplished person. But I remember, I think you handed me your first book at some point. It was a draft. And I remember looking at it, and I'm not a great speller anyway, right? I have a few issues. But I remember it's like, look at all the typos in this. And that was just Paul Richmond, for Christ's sakes. Pardon me. But, you know, I mean, it's just amazing that you sort of struggle through it. And now you are sort of the word person in this valley. You have a couple of 3 states that you've done stuff
It's
in.
pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, I've published over 80 books. It's probably...
I forgot to put Human Error Publishing.
Human Error Publishing,
people.
80 books. And somehow there's about 65 authors because some of them I published more than one of their books.
Yeah.
And that really came out of, you know, it's kind of what you are always out there, Karl, trying to do in terms of wanting to support or defend freedom of speech. And, you know, in the publishing world, it's controlled like any other entertainment world. They decide who gets to be seen, what entertainment we're supposed to be listening to or not, who are the writers. And as much as people hate Amazon, and there's only really 2 big groups, Amazon and Ingram, but as much as people hate Amazon, with the new technology, and that's how I found out about it because I was computer savvy, print on demand suddenly made a big difference for indie authors. Yeah. Because now I didn't have to go to someone and hand them my manuscript and them saying we don't like it. If I could put it together, I get a book. Now, what that did was democratizing because and that's why I said, then when I would go to Austin or other places and I would read from that book, if people came up to me after I was on the stage and said, hey, can I buy that book? That was kind of reinforced, like, okay, so it meant something to somebody. I'm not just fooling myself.
Yeah, and this is
I could sell. But so when I started Human Error Publishing, it was mostly just to help myself get my books out because I realized it wasn't.
I know you're a selfish person, you know, but I consider this part of
self-employed. I'm self-employed, Karl. I consider it that way.
I consider this part of the brilliance of Paul Richmond, finding a way to get people voices out into the world. And even though you're using the technology that I deeply distrust, you have done it from the ground up. And you know, I think that's some great stuff. You have a new book coming out, I know that, it is out.
Yeah. But I just wanted to follow up a little bit on this part because when I would go to those festivals, I would see people on the stage that I would go, wow, they're really great. And I would go up to them and say, hey, you know, can I get your book? And they say, nobody would publish me. So that's what hit me about, you're just like me. But it wasn't that I wanted to make money on it because when I started to look at how it was set up, I realized all the options for authors, whereas the author got very little money and away. And so I thought, okay, how can I do this? That I just get a fair pay, but the authors get the money up front. Yeah. So to finish that up, but think about it. The printing press. I mean, you know, for the idea of communications and freedom of speech, the printing press, all that added to more people reading, more people getting information. Now we have to deal with all these newer various kinds of technologies. Do we accept them or not? What happened to just 2 people talking?
Have you read my new crypto book?
No, Karl. I didn't realize. I didn't realize you were.
Well, you're sitting on it right now.
Okay. Yeah.
It's sort of like everything disappears. There's no grounding anymore, and that's what that you have made people who would never think they could have published a book. You've made them proud, and you've made sort of their voice be out there, and you've given them ownership of their voice.
Well, let me just go to how I got created, because and you were there in the beginning. When I went to all these places that I saw these festivals at, when I came back one time to Greenfield, I thought, I know there's a lot of writers here at the time when I was living in Greenfield, and there's cafes, and there's restaurants, and there were very few readings. Yeah. Luckily, I had a friend who I had done my other studio work with, and he had a studio. We shared studios. At that point, I didn't, but I asked him, and I could have that studio, and it started out slow, and then, as you remember, it was packed. And it was a wide variety of people.
I'm thinking about some of the characters.
Very diverse group of people.
Yes.
Right? But I want to point out that one of the things that really helped with that was I went to a lot of other poetry. And, I'm sure people, if they go out to see open mics, everyone's like, oh, how long is this guy going to drag,
There are those times, Paul. You know that, yes.
And I came up with the sand timers and basically said, you have 5 minutes, and when the sand's gone, you're gone, and let's not argue about it. And it's not about you fighting me, right?
It works most of the time, but there have been a few times when I wanted to kick you in the leg. Say, Paul,
I know, because
okay,
you want to go farther. You got one more page. You got one more page, Karl. I know, you couldn't control yourself.
I just wrote this manifesto.
I know. And sometimes we let you go, sometimes we don't. But I think what happened is the most important thing that I felt like that happened out of that is that people relaxed to go, okay, I'm going to listen to Karl or whoever it is. It's his or her 5 minutes. What am I going to hear? I don't have to like it. That was an interesting idea and point. Yeah. And over the years, you can contest, it's really created a community of people who probably would not be talking to each other or hanging out, yet they give respect for the wild and bizarre stories that they bring or what they want to talk about. And we don't have that in this country anymore in terms of how people interact. I mean, you're a opponent of hating social media because people aren't interacting, and this is one of the few events that people come, they're there, they talk, whether they become friends. They may not invite each other to each other's birthday parties or anything, but
it's a safe place. It's a safe place, and it's a place where people actually can find their voices as well.
Yes.
I mean, it can be a launching pad for people. And we've, my God, you've had everybody from veterans to just,
a number of veterans who
I remember Bill used to, there was the old, I was in the Navy, veterans, and my girlfriend number 15.
Yeah.
There were, and then there were the heartbreaking stories of people that have been abused, and they're up there and they are just being human in front of other human beings.
And also we start to realize that without any themes, all of a sudden 4 or 5 people were talking about their fear about, say, fascism happening, or the deaths of somebody close, or the break, whatever it was, and that helped to kind of have everybody go, oh, okay, I'm not the only one thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I think the other part was because it went on for so long, like various people we know, Giovanni and various other folks, because they kept writing and they kept writing and writing, then I would say, you have enough for a book, and look at how many people like your writing, and that is what gave them kind of a little confidence, and they continued on. And then they saw people wanted their book. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some books that I published that I looked at them and I thought, I don't know, this doesn't do much for me.
But
should I be the judge of that or not?
I've watched people that have been coming back year after year for all this time, and there's a decade and a half or more that's taken place.
23 years, something like that.
Jeez, and they have become real poets.
Yes.
Some of them, and,
or just writers,
some of us,
right?
and you're right. It's not all about poetry too, because I get up there and I grind my axe against the public because it's an opportunity, and sometimes I just want to feel like a writer. Some days I'm just like, well, this is crap, and my life is feeling a little lonely right now, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to have something to say in front of these people that I know I can trust them to listen.
Well, what is a democracy? I mean, I think this is what's the most important part. I mean, in order for a democracy to happen, each person has to have a voice. I mean, a democracy doesn't mean I'm letting somebody else decide things for me. I have to be involved, but I have to know what I think about the water control, or the quality of the water, or what do I want to do with my environment, or what kind of jobs make sense, or do I want data centers that suck up all the resources? I mean, who's making these choices? And do I feel safe enough to stand up and speak? I mean, we're now in the present time where we're seeing that anybody who stands up and speaks is having a vendetta against them and sued and fear. So
can I just grind my own axe a little here for a minute? I've been standing on the Greenfield Town Common for 20 years now. Every Saturday that I can make it there, and that is because 20 years ago we had a war that lasted for a decade. Hundreds of millions of people died for no weapons of mass destruction. We are there again, but it's also because I'm a journalist, and that is the public square that we need to defend. And somebody named Isaac, who was a city councilor back about 12 years ago, tried to kick us off there during, it was more than that now, during the surge, because he didn't like what we had to say, and they wanted to move us out of town, all the way up by the high school or down by the little triangle park, and we had to go to the Greenfield City Council to make that space an open space, just like what you do with, and I go there every week, and no matter what I have to say, I am always standing there for the First Amendment. I am always standing there because nobody should ever let the public square and those voices go silent.
That's right. That's right.
There you go. There's my little bit.
Yeah, that's great, Charles. And I agree. And we have to do it all each in our own ways. And that's what I wanted to point out, because I sometimes, when I go into schools and I've done workshops, I say, how many people consider themselves writers? Very few. Or how many people consider themselves artists? And why not? And what do you mean? I said, well, did you pick those clothes you're wearing today? Yeah. Why? Because I like these colors. Well, that's what artists do. When do you start thinking of your daily life and you as being an active participant in creating what you are or who you are or what you speak, how you interact in the world? That's an art form.
Right, and writing could lead you to the understanding of what's going on up there rather than this crazy deluge of screen whatever that hits us every day.
And also, I appreciate you bringing it out, and I sort of feel that I try to use my own personal experience and have people realize that's right. Maybe you can't spell, maybe you don't know all the rules for English.
He spell checks the hell out of everything now. He's terrific.
Yeah,
So.
I do now, but I still find. It's very funny. I had in my new book that's been out, I had 3 or 4 people look through it. I used a spell checker and I printed it, and then I had a friend came back and he handed me the book, and there was 30 white sheets of paper in there. My friend Tony, and looked through it, and it's like, wow, nobody caught that one.
Tony, who's part of your band, right? Tony Vaca?
No, a different Tony.
Okay, all right.
But it's just kind of funny because some people have an eye for that, and some of it were word changes. But I don't want to go there too much. I want to go to where people don't try to do. When I would teach juggling. Yeah. People would pick up the phone, drop. See, I can't do it. It's like, well, I think it was like less than a minute and a half that you were trying. Did you assume it was just going to happen in a minute and a half? You've never done it before. So when I explained that, I bought those notebooks because in terms of Ginsberg, those people all talked about having notebooks. And I tried to write in those notebooks, and I realized I can't even write within the lines. I can't hardly read my writing. I'm stopping every 4 or 5 words because I don't know how to spell that word. And I started to come up with my own system to mark them to come back. Because if I really tried to look up the word or think about it, I lost the thoughts.
So you now embody your life's work, which I think I want to make this a segue now to sort of, let's take out a copy of your new book, and maybe I could ask you to read something from it, Paul. This is the latest.
This is my 9th book, it's called Every Word Counts, but no one's listening. And they can
hit that nail on the head there, Paul.
They can get it in a lot of different places. I will say this. I wrote this with for Abia Dune, and he wrote a very nice introduction to me. He is one of the major founders of the Last Poets, who were in the 70s, who came out of Harlem, who some people think has started rap music. He doesn't like that very much. What he says is they brought congas and rhythms to doing their poetry.
This is somebody you still do online FaceTime with them, right?
Every
and do
2
poetry.
weeks or so, I sit in. I'm the only white person there. It's kind of wild. Lots of times, there's so many people that sometimes I would say it goes into black talk, where they're not afraid that somebody white's going to go, we don't do that, or I don't, whatever it is. They can talk about what's happening to them. And they realize I get it and I understand, and I even say, I have stuff that I might have said.
So there's no objection, Your Honor. Leading the witness.
No objection.
No. Okay,
But the parts that I want to talk about that came up this last meeting was he was listening to everybody read their stuff, and he said, well, this is my complaint, and one of the writers who was there said, I'm standing in front of an audience, so what am I offering this audience? Am I just going to talk about that I make money, I do drugs, I got shot, and I'm into hoes? And he said, the Last Poets were about uplifting black people and criticizing what black people did and didn't do to change their situation. And they were with Gil Scott-Heron and the whole aspect of you know, the revolution
Will
is
not be televised.
It's going to have to be changed in you.
Yeah.
And Avi Dune actually had a similar one about blacks don't want to have revolution because they just want to party. And actually, Gil Scott-Heron took his poem and wrote his.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very friends. It wasn't like he thought anything got taken from him or anything. But the issue was about, if you're going to really get up and perform and you're going to have people say something, I think people feel that now it's on a Sunday, it used to be on a Tuesday night. I think people feel like they're presenting something for people to hear and ideas, and they want to know what's going on, and they have something they want to try to say to feel out. Mm-hmm. Does anybody else feel this? Or, I mean, we've had a number of folks who are Jewish who've been really putting out their statements about what it feels like to be a Jewish person, with what's happening with what Israel's doing and how they might be perceived as being for that, and they're not, and what does that mean for what their belief is. And, you know, this is all tricky stuff.
It's a space that you can do that.
Yes.
It's a space that you can do it, and it's a wonderful it's a community asset that you've set up. You know?
And we have to keep trying to make it happen because otherwise...
and by the way, this happens at the Lava Center.
That's right.
On the first Sunday of the month, and it happens at 1 to 3:30, I believe, and there are sign-ups.
Yep, every first Sunday.
And then Paul has a few people that he calls featureds, which is always in the past tense, which bothers me. I don't know why, Paul. It must be my own semantics. Are featureds today, but it's a little word trick in my head. So anyway, but we're going to have you be featured here for a minute or two, maybe give us a few readings from your new book entitled, once again, Can you remember, people?
Yep, every word counts, and no one is listening.
All right.
And
please.
Let's see, I was just trying to think of what, there was something just to follow up on that. Oh, on the Lava Center, I wanted to talk about just for a minute. They're having a little trouble. So over the 23 years of trying to have readings, you need venues. You need spaces.
I know it's been the challenge.
You need spaces that will allow you to have that. But we don't have money. If we have to have money, how much rent do we have to pay?
I can just quickly think of 5 different places where you've done things. Just and that's Greenfield alone. That's Greenfield alone. Then there's Turners.
So this particular piece is called Beauty and Ugly.
Paul Richmond.
Beauty sat next to me at the bar, turned and said, "You're ugly." I said, "You need to get your eyes checked. Maybe it's too dark in here for you to really see." Beauty said, "I know what ugly looks like when I see it." I said, "You're only seeing the packaging, which has been manhandled by airline baggage handlers, abused, left out in the freezing rain, letting dogs rip me apart like they do with new Chewy toys." Beauty said, "I'm not talking about what's on the outside. I'm talking about what's on the inside. And what's inside shines on the outside. And all I see is darkness with a dank smell of skunk. Nothing is pleasing. You're as romantic as dead flowers. You're as natural as a shopping mall. And when you're dramatic, the audience is asleep." I asked Beauty how they know that they are beautiful, and Beauty said, "Look how they're all nervous. Everyone's looking at me and wanting my attention. How they all compliment me, smiling, hoping I will smile back. They can't take their eyes off of me." Beauty put on their shades and went to look at me and said, "You make my eyes hurt. No one wants to even look at you. Can't you hear them yelling at you to go away? No one wants to be around you." The bartender wanted to know, did we each want another drink? I bought Beauty a drink and asked, "If it's all going so well for you, what are you doing sitting next to me at the bar?" Beauty laughed, but it was soaked in tears. "Everybody wants a piece of me. I never get time alone. No one really cares what I think or feel. They are all too overwhelmed with my beauty, blinded by wanting possession." With each drink, Beauty was more confessional. Beauty talked of their biggest fear, that they will be seen as ugly one day. Despite all their efforts to stay beautiful, fighting the enemy of time was a losing battle. As we sat and drank, I noticed our reflections in the mirror. I don't know if it was the alcohol and the effects of alcohol, but I've noticed as one gets closer to the last call, your standards drop. As if it gets closer and you say to yourself, well, those people who were seen as the last choice are now suddenly the love of your life. Suddenly, someone was tapping me on the shoulder and asked, did I want a drink? I turned to find Desperate, telling me I was the one they had always been looking for. They asked if I wanted to go home with them. I left with Desperate, leaving Beauty sitting alone at the bar, looking at their reflection.
The unique voice of Massachusetts and the U.S. At times, an emeritus beat poet laureate, Paul Richmond, who clearly has his voice and a cadence that is unmistakable. When I first met you, or when I first heard you, I actually, for a brief time, I had your cadence down. I think I left you a phone message one time, and I was just like, I can do this in Paul Richmond's voice, but it is quite unique. Thank you for that. There's a couple that I would love to have you do here, but they're a little long and a little bit dirty. There's a Pope one, and there's a cat and mouse one. Not necessarily, but thank you for reading that. I wanted to get into something. We're sort of on the back end of this interview, but can you talk a little bit about the poetry?
Yes.
The poetry, Paul, is the Poetry Olympics. Maybe you can demonstrate that as well.
The Olympics.
Yeah.
The Olympics.
Poetry Olympics.
Lawrence Green, who started this last year, this is called the Massachusetts Poetry Olympics. If you go to the website, Massachusetts Poetry Olympics, it's spelled OLIMIPC, not to have copyrights for Olympics with the Y. So just make sure you put the I in. You can still submit. There's 4 poems that people submit to, one each month starting in May, so you still have time. It's the whole full month of May you can submit. I think it's a vanilla this time, and then it's a something else, and then there's a free verse.
No credential, no prior credentials necessary.
No fees, it's free.
Okay.
What you do is you say you're from Western Mass, or you say you're from Central Mass, or you say you're from Eastern Mass. He's trying to create this thing as a game. He's not, because I've talked to him about it, I don't see, I think you mentioned poetry slams before. I try not to do I didn't like poetry slams.
I probably had the name wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. Because people associate that, because I don't think, why would I want to compete with what you might say or what I might say? And so I try to give the freedom. But he wanted to create this game, but people submit their work all the time to be accepted for publication. So that's what this is about. If your peers would pick your poem from Western Mass, or your peers would pick your poem from Eastern Mass. And what they do is they give awards, just like the Olympics, having a silver, gold, and bronze of poetry. And then, depending on how many poets win from each area, they give an award for that team.
Thank you. Paul, just give us one little curl.
Oh, man, that's like...
Paul Richmond, it has been a real delight to have you and talk to you and get some words out of you right in front of us.
Buy books to support authors.
Buy books, Paul Richmond, Human Error Publishing. I'd like to thank Easthampton Media again, and of course Localbias, Drew Hutchison, who brought us together here. The other thing I want to do is I'd like to dedicate the show a little bit to many people's dear friend Pocky Whalen, who is another hero of mine. And I promised Pocky that, she left us not that long ago, that I would keep working on trying to wag the dog and get people to go to Washington and stand up now for the Constitution before an election that could close us down as a free country and democratic people.
Speak out.
So
use your words.
Paul, great time.
Thanks,
and
Carl.
again, thank you to Drew.